How has the quarantine right now impacted your free agency time of, your workouts, who you're talking to? How's that working?
It's been a weird year as far as that because there was a first phase of free agency, but there wasn't really a second phase. There wasn't a chance to have these teams evaluate their players that they have on the team. There wasn't a chance for these teams to evaluate rookies. So the kind of second phase of free agency has been slow, and there's a lot of veterans kind of just waiting around in limbo. And for me, it's an experience where I've been in the lockout in 2011, so it's not a dissimilar year from that, where there's not a lot of direction. You're kind of just waiting for that green light to go. And I spend the off season in Phoenix, so I've been out in Phoenix working out like I normally do. Just haven't been associated with the team, so kind of just biding my time, trying to stay healthy, trying to stay in good shape, and waiting for whenever the veteran market really picks up.
Right. So then I know they're eyeing out still that return for, September and however that's going to work. Do you think there's going to be like a big push right before then where everyone's, like all these vets are going to get picked up, or is it going to kind of be like, you think a mid-season type move?
I think it's going to be a situation where these teams have a lot of rookies. They have a lot of young guys that don't have a ton of experience, and they're going to need guys that can play, on with very little training camp. If there's limited training camp, the development of these young guys is going to be hampered. So I think you're going to need someone who you can plug and play, and then someone even where you can add that veteran experience and then bring these young guys up and kind of fast track them. So I think it's going to be a tiered thing, where maybe it's right before training camp, maybe it's after a week of training camp, maybe it's after training camp altogether. But I think there will be a strong market for veteran players that have experience and that can contribute right away.
Cool. And have there been any updates from like the NFLPA on what the situation is going to be, or do they have a better idea about, moving forward, how it's going to work?
I think the situation kind of is just status quo.
Yeah.
I think that some of the teams have opened up their facilities to rehab, and there's social distancing procedures in place. I think that there's not going to be an off season. I know the NFL extended the virtual off season 2 more weeks, but I doubt that anybody gets anything going right now. I don't think anybody's going to be back in the facility until late July, like training camp.
Like you said, you've moved around a bunch of different teams. How does that, what impacts those decisions where you've moved from, again, what is it, 5 different teams at this point? Was it always, you were looking for something new?
Yeah, well, I played out my whole rookie contract
Mm-hmm.
and signed with Arizona for a couple of years. I would have loved to be back, but it kind of free agency went a little bit unexpected. In 2016, I ended up in Chicago, and I would have loved to be back in Chicago. Signed with Miami on a 3-year deal, and played 2 out of 3 years with that. The whole coaching staff got fired, and that kind of screws up the deal there at the end. But I have bounced around. I would have liked, obviously, to have a little more stability. It just kind of didn't happen. There was a lot of coaching changes that have happened, and that doesn't necessarily help continuity on a team. But I think, if anything, being on so many different teams, I've picked up so many different offensive schemes, worked with so many different coaches, that kind of just adds to my general experience and gives me confidence to join a team. If I had to join a team in middle training camp or middle of the season, I feel like I would be able to pick up their scheme fairly quickly.
Right. And, was there ever a city that you kind of considered as like, I know I'm going to make this my home base, or did you always have, your house in Arizona and then kind of just went from, Tampa Bay to Arizona back?
Yeah, no, I lived in Tampa the 4 years I played there. I had actually grown up in Tampa, so it kind of felt like a hometown. Never bought a house there, but when I signed with the Cardinals, I bought a house in Phoenix and decided it's going to be our home base. And it served as our home base since 2014. And it's been super convenient to have a home when you're playing for, we were Miami, Chicago, back and forth. It gives the kids like a level of continuity and the level of stability. Even though it's like April rolled around and the kids are like, where are we going? Like, are we going somewhere? My son's 3 years old and he's been in every April he's going to another city for OTA. So they actually don't mind, moving from city to city, but it is nice to have a home that from January until usually April or May that you're in.
Yeah. And then do you have, a timeline as far as, you've been playing for, basically 10 years at this point. Do you have an end game in mind about, what you want to do when you're done playing, how long you want to play for, you know, after, I guess, this year? Yeah. Do you have any sort of
Yeah, I mean, I think
timeline?
I'd like to play maybe 2 or 3 more years. My body feels good. I think eventually it's just going to come down to like transitioning to another job, and I think I'd like to go back to school to get my MBA,
Yeah.
Master's in Business. And I think it's like, okay, well, you're 32, like let's get going here on the second career, and it's like
Yeah.
becomes more of like an age thing for me. But like I said, I feel good, body feels good, and the kids enjoy watching me play, and
Hmm.
it's every year you have in the NFL is a great experience. So uh, I have a plan for transitioning. As the years go along, it changes and pivots and stuff, but definitely have a plan and thinking about 2 or 3 more years.